Hello and welcome. It is Nomadic Shaman here. Thank you for visiting my page. Today's video, I wanted to focus on gangstalking, looking at it through a spiritual lens. I want this video to focus on the shadowy aspects or the dark aspects of that spiritual lens. Before I jump into that though, there were a couple of things that I did forget to mention in my previous video of the business and the behind the scenes when it comes to gang stalking, the practicality of it. So I mentioned John as the man with the specialized business and specialized skills, and how his job is to seek out the mutants, identify the divine ones, divine beings, and chosen ones who hold a certain frequency, are able to tap into a certain frequency, or have specialized spiritual abilities. Whether it's spiritual or whether it's physical, they have both. Okay, and so we understand and know that these chosen ones, divine one beings, are sought out for their energy source. Okay, because they're used to be a sustainable energy source. Outside of that, clientels may be interested in entertainment. Okay, the shock value of it all. In other words, they have so much money, nothing excites them anymore. In fact, that everyone who's in these gang stalking campaigns are nothing more than lab rats, the ones that are going through the maze, and whenever they get shocked, then these scientists just look to see how they'll respond. Well, there are a lot of scenarios that are staged within the gang stalking experience that are meant to shock you. And we have scientists looking onward to see how are you going to respond in real time. Those who can identify with me, I'm talking about the people who are being surveillance and have listening devices within their homes or where they live primarily and it's really for entertainment purposes. It's just that it's not for your entertainment. Okay. And then this is what my guys are telling me. This footage is then being sold, black web, dark web, or to their clientele. Okay. So entertainment is another part of it. Sustainable energy source is another part of it. And then the whole destiny swapping, where you have clientele who's like looking at these profiles of divine beings, of chosen ones, identifying with their physical, of course, weaknesses, but their physical strengths, their physical abilities, in addition to their spiritual abilities and gifts, and saying, hey, I don't have this. I want this. This person has the ability to speak to aliens. I want that gift, okay? And then so next thing you know, they are sold, or they're marked for the auction block. Okay? That's how I'm going to put it. They are marked to be sold on the auction block. Okay. So that's ties into one of the dark aspects of being sold. Okay. Now, the other part that I want to mention, just to get into the video, because this allows me to make that transition. The other part of it is the draconian, the reptilian, and the gray matrix. You've probably heard one of these terms or all of these terms. When I'm specifically speaking on this, and as it pertains to this video, I'm speaking about the individuals who are in these human suits, human vessels, okay, who have an insatiable appetite for greed, for power, for influence, for money, manipulation, and let me see if there's anything else. If I didn't say control, the other part of it is dominion. Okay, so I wanted to add that on. I wanted to add on there. So let's go ahead and start back. It is about greed. It is about dominion. It's about control. It's about desiring power, and it's about manipulation. Okay, these people who hold insatiable appetites are part of the reptilian, the draconian, and the gray matrix. Okay, they all understand they all understand the importance of energy being currency. Okay, I mentioned this in a previous video. And the goal is to fragment your soul into pieces so they can cop that bad boy, okay? Because it's easier to, what is it? It's easier to steal, harness, harvest, steal energy when it's broken up and fragmented. Okay. And so that's part of the whole gang stalking experience. And that is via through, which is the same thing. That is through trauma and wounding. Okay. The powers that be, the elite, they understand the importance of it. And the people who is saying, oh, that's bullshit. Oh, that's Fantasyland. Oh, that's just a conspiracy. Your eyes are closed and it's time to wake the fuck up. Now, moving on. These people tend to be occultists themselves, right? And or they have an affiliation with occultists. The fact of the matter is they understand the importance of the knowledge that it isn't outwardly spoken. It's not outwardly spoken. However, they understand the significance and the knowledge because guess what? For folks who aren't hip or open to this type of information, they're easier to get robbed of the information, right? Okay. So then these folks, what they like to do is they like to tap into they like to tap into numerology. Now, for those people who say, oh, zodiac signs, what is it? That's a pseudo science or bullshit. Bullshit. Many things can be broken down and understood by numbers, by data. Science, how do I say this? Anything related to science, if I were to simplify that, is you extract data through observation over an extended period of time. You have numbers that are being marked down. Numerology are numbers that are being marked down, okay? You just need to understand the language of the numbers in order for numerology to make sense to you. It's no different than astrology. You break astrology down, it is numbers. You understand numbers, you are halfway winning up in this bitch. Do you hear me? Okay. So then the other part is birth charts. You break down birth charts, of course, by placements, by positioning of what? Numbers. Okay. This is me simplifying it. Numbers. Then you go down to, or now you go down to, but then the elite, so I'm saying they use numerology, they use astrology, they use birth charts, they use DNA to identify different bloodlines. And when I say different bloodlines, I'm speaking specifically about cosmic bloodlines, cosmic lineages, because this is how you are able to identify, or at least get closer to identifying one's spiritual gifts, abilities, their frequency, and the type of light that they harness, okay? Understand me when I say this. So then the next part is Akashic Records. Akashic Records is like, for those who may not have come across that terminology before, Akashic Records is basically your past, your present, and your future timelines in one place. There's a certain series of codes or coding that's needed in order to access this, okay? Unfortunately, they have people who have the gifts and the abilities to access this information for their own personal malicious intent. Look around and what's happening in the world right now. This is no different than what's happening right now, where people are purposely utilizing information to get over, to manipulate, or for their own personal and selfish needs. This is no different. Akashic Records is a way to be able to go in, be able to get sacred occultic information in order to use for their own benefit. I may do another video on this. That's if God leads me to do that. Okay. So then the next thing that I wanted to say, so how do they use numerology? How to break down? How do they use numerology? How do they use astrology? How do they use DNA? How do they use information regarding your Akashic records, your birth charts information, your blood, your DNA? How do they use all of this information? Y'all, is through spiritual warfare. And spiritual warfare, there's so many things that happen to come under this umbrella. Okay, let me share with you all some of the ways that this information is extracted in order to identify divine ones, divine beings, chosen ones, those who hold spiritual gifts and abilities. Okay, let me share with you the ways. Let's count the ways. Okay, I did go ahead and write this down. Now remember, in coupling with this, as far as one having to discern information, having to identify certain information regarding the chosen ones, they do like how scientists does, where you have like a control, what is it, like a control group, right? And then you have a group where you're testing the fuck out of them. And the people who are getting tested the fuck out of them, they are but one of the ways is through the whole Gangstalking experience. Okay, we are the groups that we're getting tested the fuck out of. And the ways that that spiritual warfare is physically manifested by way of the elite ones who are part of this whole programming, who are part of this whole initiative. Okay, you guys can say conspiracy theories if you want, but MK Ultra was once a conspiracy theory until it was proven and documented that it was in use. Okay, so miss me with the bullshit. Now moving on, the first thing is MLK Ultra. That's one. Okay, gang stalking is another way through spiritual warfare that they use to gain and extract information. Another way is called SAR. For those who are not familiar with SAR, let me break it down. It is satanic abuse rituals. This is where the cults come in. This is where the covens come in. This is where the occultists come in. Okay, they work in all energetically and all spiritually up in the ethers, doing what they do in order to gain a certain result. This still comes with the folks who are being tested, okay, as far as gang stalking. Let's go ahead and move on. So I did say covens, cults, and occultists. Also organized crime. Nanotechnology, okay, is another one. Chips, direct energy weapons, okay, all of which is systematic. Okay, they attack you emotionally, they attack you physically, they attack you mentally, they attack you spiritually, and if I didn't mention before, digitally, financially, I said that, and yes, okay, and sexually too. That's where the SAR comes in. Okay, then the next part is, why do they do that? The goal is keeping one from achieving one's greatest potential. And some people is just like, well, why the hell would somebody do all this to keep somebody from realizing their own greatest potential? It goes back to the video where I spoke about each one teach one, reach one, teach one, about how the ripple effect, the causation of one lighting another lighter, and the next thing that you know, the whole world is fucking lit. And the reason why is because when the whole world is fucking lit on the planet, it elevates the consciousness. Okay, it raises the vibration. And what happens when the consciousness is elevated and the vibration is raised? That means that people are now in the positioning where they can no longer succumb to false illusions appearing real. Okay, because they use that to keep people stuck and stagnant. You understand? You understand? That's the goal, is to keep you stuck and stagnant so you don't realize your potential. And so it all boils down to spiritually and energetically. The goal is to raise your vibration, to raise the frequency, to raise the consciousness of the planet. How do you do that? It's not only to be your authentic self, but if you are called to lead, to step into the position of leadership, understand that the word sin, the etymology of the word sin in the Bible is coded. Some people, so for those who have the eyes to see, fully understand what the word sin is. Let me break it down to you. The word sin, the etymology of sin means to miss the mark. Missing the mark equates to being deterred from your path. Your path is to reach enlightenment. Light. How do you find light? Light is through your spark. Now, how you always have the light within you, but it needs to be ignited. How is it ignited? Is for you to be your true self. Anytime you go against or resist what it is that you are innately feel that you are called to do, you are sinning. Okay, but people ain't ready for that. That's another video. So back to the topic at hand, because I wrote notes for a reason, y'all. So the goal of you to stay stuck and stagnant is to trap you, so you are stuck in a destitute way of living and seeing. You are living for others as opposed to living for yourself. What people don't understand is living for God equates to living for yourself. If you are of God, okay, and He created you and He wants the best for you, what does that mean? That means you need to do the best for you, even in the face of opposition and resistance. Even in the face, when you are faced in opposition of societal norms, okay? It's not easy, but if we're going to use examples, this is what Jesus did, right? And the crazy thing is, because I'm running on a tangent right here, but I think this needs to be said. It's unfortunate how many people claim to be followers of Jesus. But if there was a person that was indicative of Jesus, meaning every single thing that was written into the Bible that Jesus did, there would be more people who would shun him and persecute him based on what he is currently doing and how it is outside of societal norms. Okay, so he would still be persecuted if he was living today, meaning if he was going against the majority. Okay, but people aren't ready for that. Let's go ahead and move on. So then the other part is, they want to keep you stuck and stagnant so that you do not ascend, so that you are not using your God-given gifts. Okay, now some of the ways that I did leave off as far as ways of spiritual warfare that connects or ties into the gangstalking would be psyops, would be government-controlled media, would be trafficking, and would be biological warfare. Let's talk about trafficking real quick. You know, one of the most uplifting and joyous things, I do not have any kids, but I do have a lot of nieces and nephews. And one of the things that bring me the most joy is hearing children play. This can shift your mood, especially if you are in a downtrodden mood. If you may be feeling depressed, you'll find if you go outside and you see kids playing, laughter, okay, with each other and having a genuine time, that automatically improves or boosts your mood. This is the type of frequency that children have, where they have the innate joy, okay, because they haven't been blinded, or I don't want to say blinded because blinded is not the right word, but based on, they haven't yet fully been conditioned as far as what they should be doing, right? They're being, if anything, they're being their genuine selves, right? And so this is why, because they're being genuine selves, this is why they are of high frequency, especially when you see them experiencing joy, such as playing. Now, if we flip it, let's go ahead and flip it. This is where it comes to the shadowy and dark aspects of children. Those who those who are part of the elite, who are associated with the what is it, the gray reptilian and the draconian matrix. So if we break that down, those are folks who are consumed with greed, manipulation, control, power, right? And then I want to make sure I captured everything. These folks who are more fixated on those things, who have hold higher priority for those things. When it comes to children, children radiate joy. They radiate light. This improves the frequency of all of those around them when they experience children in their joyous moments. People who are involved in trafficking, okay, of the little ones, they understand this. So what they do is utilize the energy that emits from innocent children, and they fragment it. And beforehand I said fragmenting, that is through trauma and their wounding. Okay, so they fragment that energy. And when they fragment that energy through trauma, this leaves children in a darkened and destitute place, making it easier for them to extract their light. Understand, this is spiritual. Okay, so what they do is they tap into one of the purest lights created by the Most High Himself.